Okay, let's unpack this incredible, truly unique cultural phenomenon. We're talking about a film that manages to not just span, but um, really dominate two major holidays, Halloween and Christmas.
It does, and we are, of course, talking about Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas.
It's a project that is, I mean, it's a true testament to the power of a really distinct, uncompromising artistic vision.
It is. It went from this small, kind of dark poem that Disney initially couldn't figure out what to do with to a massive global institution.
So for our conversation today, we want to look completely past the basic plot summary. I think most people know the story of Jack Skellington, the Pumpkin King, and his attempt to take over Christmas.
Exactly. Instead, we're going to focus entirely on the rich, kind of complex history of its development, the truly revolutionary stop-motion artistry,
The voices that brought these characters to such vivid life.
and of course the immense, still growing cultural footprint the film maintains, 3 decades later.
The sources we've gathered are pretty extensive. They give us a deep historical look at the film's development, its initial hesitant reception.
And that decades-long life it's had through, well, endless merchandise, theatrical reissues, and those spectacular live concerts.
It's really a story about how a single, specific artistic vision overcomes corporate fear and eventually becomes this permanent, multi-generational holiday standard. It's a fascinating journey.
So we have to start at the very beginning, the origin point.
The mind of its creator, Tim Burton. The project's roots, they go all the way back to 1982, and they are so intrinsically tied to Burton's deeply personal, formative experiences growing up in Burbank, California.
Right, and you really have to understand the environment of suburban Burbank in the 1960s and 70s to get the film's central emotional conflict.
What's so fascinating here is that Burton didn't approach the holidays with this pure, straightforward cheer. He was viewing them through a very distinctive lens of solitude, of yearning.
He often described his upbringing in Burbank as feeling aesthetically uniform, almost, lacking in distinguishing features.
A place of quiet, repetitive order.
Exactly. And he said that holidays like Christmas or Halloween were the only times that suddenly provided, and this is his quote, some sort of texture that wasn't there before.
That's such an insightful observation, that feeling of being an other, of being a nocturnal loner looking in on these brightly organized celebrations. That's really the emotional core that drove the initial concept of Jack Skellington.
Oh, absolutely. He's the ultimate outsider trying to fit into a system he just doesn't understand.
And this emotional landscape, it manifested while he was working as an animator at Walt Disney Feature Animation.
Right. He put that feeling down into a 3-page poem in 1982. He gave it the title, The Nightmare Before Christmas. It was short, but it captured the essence of his internal conflict.
And crucially, the poem itself wasn't born in a vacuum. It was drawing inspiration from classic holiday media, which gives the final film a surprising grounding in tradition, despite its heavily gothic aesthetic.
What kind of material was influencing him at that point?
He was explicitly referencing these iconic, beloved American holiday touchstones. He mentioned classic television specials like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
And critically, How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Yes, exactly, both of which deal with outsiders trying to subvert or steal a major holiday.
And he also cited the classic poem, A Visit from St. Nicholas.
Initially, he even envisioned adapting his poem into a television special, and he wanted it to be narrated by his favorite actor, the master of the macabre, Vincent Price.
It's clear the vision was there, dark as it was. But this is where the institutional conflict really began. After the critical success of Burton's short stop-motion film, Vincent, in 1982, Disney leadership did consider developing Nightmare.
But they really truncated the idea. They were only thinking of a short film, or maybe a small 30-minute TV special.
And this is the pivotal moment. It just demonstrates the initial mismatch between Burton's aesthetic and Disney's corporate strategy at the time. Development just stalled completely.
The sources show the tone was simply deemed too weird and too dark by the studio.
The fear was that the company couldn't, quote, offer his nocturnal loners enough scope within the expected Disney brand.
And this cultural friction, it resulted in Burton being fired from the studio in 1984.
The project was essentially shelved indefinitely. It just didn't fit the Disney mold of, family-friendly animation.
That initial rejection is almost unbelievable now, considering the film's global status. But this professional rejection became the genesis of his massive professional success.
It did. Burton went on to find just massive commercial success elsewhere. with live-action films like Beetlejuice in 1988.
And Batman in 1989.
And that commercial clout completely changed Disney's perspective on the project they had once deemed too strange.
Absolutely. By 1990, Burton realized Disney still held the rights to his original poem.
And Jeffrey Katzenberg, seeing Burton's growing cultural dominance, became intensely interested in reviving Nightmare. But this time, as a major feature film.
Disney was entering a new era. They were looking for something to showcase the studio's technical and storytelling capabilities. They were referencing the creative achievements in films that successfully blended animation and live action.
Like Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Exactly. They were hungry for creative boundary pushing, and Burton was the perfect artist to lead that charge.
So Disney greenlights the feature, but Burton himself was already committed to directing Batman Returns.
And he was in pre-production for Ed Wood. He couldn't physically spend 2 years on a soundstage moving puppets.
And that absence leads us to the crucial creative partnership that truly defined the film's execution, the collaboration between Burton and director Henry Selick.
This partnership is really the key to understanding the film's unique look, and we have to clarify the division of labor here.
We do. Burton confessed that he actively disliked the daily, painstakingly slow process of stop motion. He was the conceptual genius.
And Selick, who was also a former Disney animator, was committed to directing the full-length feature and managing that brutal timeline.
Selick had this wonderful, slightly dismissive analogy for the dynamic. He said, Burton laid the egg, and I sat on it and hatched it.
His core perspective was really clear. His job was to translate the source material, Burton's visual sketches, into the reality of a feature film, and specifically to make it look authentically like a Tim Burton film.
Even though Burton himself was only physically present in the San Francisco production studio about 5 times over the 2 years of filming.
It really raises an important question that film historians still debate about authorship in animation.
It does. Burton created the world, the central characters, the tone, and the rough storyline alongside Danny Elfman. But Selick, as the director, was the one who oversaw the entire process of translation,
ensuring visual consistency across 109,440 individual frames.
So while the vision belongs to Burton, the hands-on daily execution that created the final, tangible visual language was definitively Selick's. It was a perfect, necessary artistic marriage.
It's just remarkable that a project born out of such personal solitude and institutional rejection eventually required such a massive collaborative effort to succeed.
And that brings us perfectly to the actual execution.
Moving into the film's production, we need to talk about the sheer technical mastery that was required to bring Halloween Town to life. Production began in San Francisco in July 1991, and even by today's standards, it was an immense undertaking for stop motion.
The scale of the operation is absolutely staggering. I mean, to achieve the necessary pace, they required a crew of over 120 workers.
120.
Yes. And at the peak of production, they were utilizing 20 sound stages simultaneously.
20 separate scenes, all requiring micro-adjustments and careful lighting running at the same time.
It's hard to even picture. And the dedication to the time-lapse nature of the craft is encapsulated in the numbers.
We mentioned the total frame count earlier, 109,440 total frames captured for a 76-minute film. When you break that down, you just realize the profound labor involved.
Right, to put that into perspective for you, a typical film runs at 24 frames per second.
Which means for every single second of screen time, the animators had to stop, adjust the puppet, adjust the lighting, and snap 24 individual photos.
This required an almost unbelievable level of patience, of consistency and dedication over 2 full years. The film is fundamentally a demonstration of pure dedication to craft, captured one minuscule movement at a time.
And the detail they put into the actual character puppets, it speaks volumes about the commitment to fluid, believable expression. They constructed 227 puppets in total for the film,
ranging from the major characters to all the background citizens of Halloween Town.
But let's look specifically at the protagonist. Jack Skellington, the central character, required, and this number is just amazing, around 400 heads to allow the animators to express every possible emotion.
Wait, 400 heads just for Jack? Can you elaborate on why that was necessary? That detail is mind-boggling and must have been a huge factor in the time commitment.
It's the core principle of replacement animation. Unlike articulated puppets, where you might physically move a jaw or furrow a brow,
they used a system where, for critical moments, they would literally replace Jack's entire head.
With a new pre-sculpted head designed to convey a specific expression or even a vowel sound, for Jack to say the word Christmas, he might cycle through 5 or 6 distinct heads in less than half a second.
So they needed 400 variations ready at hand to avoid constantly having to sculpt a new face for every micro-expression across 2 years of filming.
It makes sense. It creates a uniformity and fluidity of movement, but the labor involved is just astronomical.
And Sally, the rag doll, with another technical feat entirely. She utilized a different method.
She was. Since she is constructed of cloth, her animation also required the replacement method for her mouth and facial movements. Her face mask had to be physically removed and swapped out to change expressions.
And the immense challenge, which really speaks to the technical artistry of the crew, was ensuring that her iconic, long flowing red hair, which was highly delicate, remained stable and perfectly in place during that replacement process.
She had 10 different face types, each with 11 distinct expressions, all meticulously synchronized with her dialogue and emotions to capture her subtle worry and her deep empathy.
Selick himself described the entire production design as resembling a meticulously crafted pop-up book.
Which is a great analogy for how deliberately crafted and contained that world feels. But what is truly masterful is how they executed the visual language by pulling from such high art influences.
Absolutely. The crew consciously drew from disparate sources, creating a unique aesthetic hybrid. They looked at the work of stop-motion pioneer Ray Harryhausen.
The darkly whimsical illustrations of Edward Gorey.
And most critically, the unsettling look of German expressionist films.
We have to pause on German expressionism because it's a concept that elevates the film beyond typical animation. Can you explain what that style entails and how it applies so directly to Halloween Town?
Sure. German expressionism, it peaked in the 1920s with films like The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. It's defined by its use of non-realistic, geometric, and often severely distorted settings.
So it's not about realism at all.
Not in the slightest. It emphasizes heavy shadow and sharp angles to convey the psychological state of the characters, often fear, alienation, or madness. Selick's crew borrowed this directly.
Halloween Town is entirely German expressionism, all jagged lines, deep shadows, and exaggerated perspectives, fitting that gothic, melancholy aesthetic of Jack's world.
And that contrast is so key, because when Jack discovers Christmas Town, the visual rules change instantly.
Selick noted the clear design separation. Christmas Town becomes, in his words, an outrageous Dr. Seuss-esque set piece. It's bright, round, cheerful, completely over the top, using saturation and smooth surfaces.
And then the brief glimpse of the human real world that Jack visits, it's visualized as plain, simple, and perfectly aligned.
It's an almost boring, neutral canvas, which just emphasizes Jack's chaotic presence and reinforces the idea that his arrival is an intrusion into this mundane reality.
This conscious use of visual style to express thematic conflict is, it's truly the film's genius.
And underlying all of this visual complexity binding the worlds together is the music of Danny Elfman.
Elfman's role was far more than a composer. He was a co-creator of the entire structure. He not only composed the music, but wrote the songs. And he famously found it remarkably easy.
He said it was one of the easiest jobs I've ever had.
He felt a strong personal connection to the character, saying he had a lot in common with Jack Skellington, this flamboyant performer grappling with existential malaise.
The structural importance of the music just cannot be overstated. Elfman and Burton created the rough storyline and 2/3 of the film's 11 songs before the screenwriter, Caroline Thompson, was even hired.
Exactly. The musical numbers were the fundamental structural backbone that the narrative had to be built around.
It's a true musical first, then a film second. The songs establish the mood, the character, and the plot progression all at once, which is why the film feels so operatic and tightly constructed, despite the complexity.
So let's turn now to the vocal performances, which are absolutely essential to the film's emotional success. The lead character, Jack Skellington, is famously a dual performance.
A creative decision that really defined his character's duality.
That's right. Danny Elfman provided the robust, theatrical singing voice, capturing all of Jack's bombast and excitement. But critically, Chris Sarandon was then cast separately for the speaking voice after the songs were already recorded.
And this wasn't a compromise, it was intentional. So what were they trying to achieve by casting a speaking voice after the musical performance was already finished?
The requirement was that Sarandon needed to match Elfman's stylistic flair and energy, but provide a slightly more grounded, dramatic tone for the narrative exposition.
The goal was to create a Jack who sounds almost physically different when he's passionately singing about his new Christmas vision versus when he's just speaking to Sally or the mayor.
And Sarandon perfectly captured that smooth, slightly haunted, yet deeply charismatic quality. He created a seamless main character, despite the voice change.
Then we have Sally, voiced by Catherine O'Hara, who had already established a strong working relationship with Burton on Beetlejuice. And Sally is complex, far more than a simple love interest.
Oh, she is a figure of profound sympathy. She is a ragdoll creation of Dr. Finkelstein, but she's also a toxicologist who uses poison to liberate herself from her creator's constantly overbearing captivity.
She is striving for autonomy, which makes her yearning for Jack's attention all the more poignant.
And critically, she serves a vital narrative function. She's the voice of reason. She has a psychic element, experiencing premonitions when something terrible is about to happen.
Exactly. She is the constant warning system of the narrative, desperately trying to convey that Jack's vision will lead to disaster.
A point which Jack, blinded by his zeal, sadly dismisses.
She embodies the film's moral core and its tragic element. She even sacrifices her safety in an attempt to rescue Santa, placing herself in mortal peril.
Which brings us to her creator, Dr. Finkelstein, the mad scientist, voiced by William Hickey. The sources list him as the evil scientist, but he's a very specific brand of villainy, isn't he?
He's not purely malevolent. He's Sally's loving but clearly overbearing, controlling creator. He's the physical embodiment of the protective impulse taken to a toxic extreme.
His character, along with Sally's desire to poison him just to escape, adds a genuinely dark, domestic edge to the film that goes way beyond standard cartoon fare.
And the supporting cast is equally memorable, starting with the mayor of Halloween Town, voiced by Glenn Shadix, another Beetlejuice collaborator.
The mayor is just a brilliant visual metaphor. He is literally two-faced. One side has a happy, smiling expression, and the other is perpetually worried, a sad expression.
This visually mirrors his wild mood swings and his inability to handle chaos. He functions as a humorous, satirical representation of a politician who is literally unable to show a unified front.
He relies entirely on Jack to manage the town's enthusiasm and expectations.
And finally, the ultimate antagonist, Oogie Boogie, voiced by Ken Page. While most citizens of Halloween Town only engage in scaring for fun, Oogie Boogie is distinctly ruthless and vicious.
He provides the film's necessary darkness. He's the main villain, and unlike the others, he's purely motivated by malice. He was banished from Halloween Town for being too much of a real menace.
And when he captures Santa, he plots to play a game with Santa's life at stake.
When Sally tries to rescue Santa, placing multiple sympathetic characters in immediate distress, it really raises the stakes dramatically.
His defeat is also one of the film's most memorable moments.
It speaks perfectly to the visual style of the film. He's a villain defined by his physicality as a burlap sack. He's only truly defeated when the thread holding his cloth form unravels, spilling out the swarm of insects that constitute him.
This provided the necessary final menace to make Jack's ultimate transformation and redemption feel meaningful and, well, hard-earned.
So this intense production wrapped, and the film was ready for release. But despite the high quality of the stop-motion artistry and the involvement of Tim Burton, Disney's initial hesitation about the tone, it resurfaced right before launch.
This brings us to the reception and the film's eventual canonization.
This period is crucial because it demonstrates the lack of institutional faith in the project. Disney executives were deeply fearful of the film's gothic tone. They worried it was too dark and scary for kids.
Their core fear was that their traditional, family-oriented audience would reject the film, potentially alienating them from the Disney brand itself.
And this anxiety led to a critical marketing decision. In an effort to functionally quarantine the film from the main Disney label, they initially released it under the adult-oriented Touchstone Pictures label.
That was a huge statement, a formal distancing.
It was. However, to counteract the perception that it was too niche and to leverage Burton's celebrity, they made a massive decision just 3 weeks before the wide release.
They marketed it explicitly as Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas.
A branding decision designed to pull in older audiences who were familiar with his gothic sensibility and to confirm that the unique aesthetic was intentional.
The film premiered at the New York Film Festival in October 1993, and its initial theatrical run was considered a moderate sleeper hit. It grossed $50 million domestically. Solid, but not, blockbuster level.
But the box office story is almost entirely about its profound longevity. which is where the analysis gets really compelling.
Over the decades, through persistent reissues and re-releases, including the highly successful conversion to Disney Digital 3D starting in 2006, the film's total box office has grown significantly.
It's exceeded $108 million by 2025. This pattern of continued multi-decade growth confirms its status as a permanent, enduring dual holiday classic, unlike most seasonal films which just peak in their initial run.
It also received immense critical acclaim, confirming its visual mastery immediately upon release. On Rotten Tomatoes, it holds a superb rating of 95% with universal acclaim.
Critics were immediately captivated by the sheer visual inventiveness. Roger Ebert, a highly respected critic, praised the film's originality, noting there was not a single recognizable landscape in it, and that everything looked strange and haunting.
He put the film into truly elite company, comparing its ambitious creation of a completely new world to visual classics like Fritz Lang's Metropolis and, notably, the German expressionist touchstone, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
That comparison alone elevates the film from a cartoon to a significant cinematic achievement in world building.
Ebert also highlighted Danny Elfman's songs, noting their clever lyrics and comparing them structurally to the complicated, witty patter of Gilbert and Sullivan. He praised the energized choreography, which was liberated from gravity and reality.
It's important to note for you, the listener, that Ebert did offer a minor warning. Based on the film's visual style, he said that some of the Halloween creatures might be a tad scary for smaller children.
However, he balanced this by emphasizing that older kids would eat up the film's unique, offbeat, subversive energy.
So the darkness, influenced by German expressionism, was clearly part of its appeal, not a detractor.
Let's discuss the deeper thematic insights and character analysis that have emerged over the years, which contribute significantly to its strong cult following and academic interest.
The film is often analyzed in parallel with classic children's literature, which is fascinating. Analysts frequently cite parallels to Dr. Seuss.
Right. Noting Jack Skellington's attempt to steal Christmas mirrors the Grinch.
And Jack's ghost dog Zero mirrors Max, the Grinch's loyal dog. This connection roots the film in established narratives about outsiders, holiday subversion.
And the broader theme of challenging authority and seeking identity is recognized as well. One scholar, Philip Nell, wrote that the film challenges the wisdom of cults through its trickster characters.
This framework is highly useful because it contrasts Jack, who is the good trickster, who learns from his mistakes and ultimately redeems himself, with Oogie Boogie, who is the bad trickster.
And Oogie Boogie, in this analytical context, has also been compared to Dr. Seuss's tyrannical, control-obsessed Dr. Terwilliger.
This just highlights the narrative depth that underlies the stop-motion fun. It's a sophisticated study of ambition, failure, and self-discovery.
And as a final monumental mark of its long-term cultural importance, the film was officially recognized for preservation in the United States National Film Registry in 2023.
This selection confirms its permanent status in American cinema, acknowledging it as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. It's no longer just a holiday movie. It is a piece of preserved art.
It also gathered key industry nominations and awards. It won the Saturn Award for Best Fantasy Film, and Elfman won Best Music.
And crucially, it was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Visual Effects, which was significant as it marked a first for an animated film. The technical achievement of Selick's team was absolutely undeniable.
Now we move into the final phase of this discussion, which is perhaps the most compelling part of the film's narrative. Its perpetual life as an ongoing cultural property. This film exists in a state of constant renewal.
Despite the creator's long-standing, firm resistance to traditional expansion.
That tension is the central paradox of the film's legacy. You're referring specifically to Tim Burton's very vocal resistance to film sequels or further cinematic projects.
I am. In 2001, Disney was considering a computer-animated sequel. It was a clear attempt to capitalize on the success. But Burton successfully convinced them to abandon the idea entirely.
He explained his reasoning perfectly. He was very protective of the film's purity. He didn't want the concept cheapened or diluted by lazy spin-offs.
Explicitly rejecting ideas like Jack visits Thanksgiving World.
That sentiment has remained incredibly strong, even very recently. As recently as 2023, he asserted he didn't want to see any further projects in that universe, issuing the highly protective statement, "Get off of my land."
Right. And director Henry Selick initially seemed more open to a sequel if a good story emerged, but he too expressed strong doubt in 2024, saying he didn't want to beat the film to death.
This shared protection of the original film's integrity is virtually unique in modern blockbuster cinema. It essentially creates a barrier. The film itself is untouchable.
But the world is fair game. And this is the brilliant loophole that Disney has exploited to keep the property fresh and relevant across generations.
Despite the hard line on a filmed sequel directed by Burton or Selick, the world itself has exploded in other media formats, which is crucial to its cultural legacy.
This allows the universe to expand without violating the purity of the original cinematic masterpiece.
And the universe is definitely expanding rapidly in print and games. For instance, the 2004 video game Oogie's Revenge served as a direct narrative sequel set 1 year later.
And to give it legitimacy, it included contributions from the film's original voice actors and the art director, Dean Taylor.
The world also features prominently as Halloween Town in the massively popular Kingdom Hearts video game series,
Which introduces Jack Skellington and his world to an entirely new generation of gamers and fantasy enthusiasts who might not have even seen the film yet.
and the development of new canonical stories continues aggressively in the print world. A 2022 young adult novel, Long Live the Pumpkin Queen, significantly expands the mythology.
It focuses on Sally as the protagonist, navigating her new royal role, exploring other holiday worlds, and confronting a mysterious new villain.
And a sequel to that novel is already expected in 2025.
We're also seeing numerous manga and graphic novel adaptations that expand the backstory. The manga series Zero's Journey, for instance, acts as a sequel. It follows Jack's dog after he accidentally gets separated in Christmastown.
And that project received Tim Burton's specific story approval.
And a 2023 graphic novel, The Battle for Pumpkin King, even explores the backstory of the friendship and eventual rivalry between a young Jack Skellington and Oogie Boogie.
This expansion across various media is only one piece of the puzzle. The most visible, continuous legacy of this film is its presence as a massive merchandise empire.
Which underscores its cultural omnipresence in ways few films achieve. The proliferation of related products, action figures, books, games, fashion, and jewelry is enormous and constant.
It started early. The 1993 Hasbro action figures were noted for being uncharacteristically detailed for that era.
This detail confirmed that the producers were consciously targeting the rising adult collector market that began to surge in the 1990s. This film was always intended to be bought by adults who appreciated the artistry, not just children.
And the current examples confirm its continued relevance across all demographics. We've seen a 2020 tarot card deck, a 2023 Monster High Doll collaboration,
And even a large 2024 Lego set featuring 3 iconic film locations: Spiral Hill, Jack Skellington's house, and Halloween Town Hall.
This isn't just throwaway merchandise. These are statements that the characters and the aesthetic are timeless design icons suitable for high-end collectibles.
And finally, we have to discuss the most communal, ritualistic aspect of its lasting legacy: the transformation into a recurring, highly successful live experience.
Institutionalized both in theme parks and through concerts.
Since 2001, Disneyland's iconic Haunted Mansion attraction has been annually transformed into a Haunted Mansion holiday, incorporating the characters and music from the film into a 3-month seasonal overlay.
And Jack Skellington even hosts fireworks shows in the parks. It's no longer just a film, it is a fixed, annual, seasonal institution.
That institutionalization is mirrored in the wildly popular live-to-film concerts. The film has been regularly performed live with a full orchestra accompanying the screening.
Often featuring original cast members reprising their roles. This turns a passive viewing experience into an active, communal ritual.
Danny Elfman, Catherine O'Hara, and Ken Page have participated in multiple concerts since 2015, which speaks volumes about their commitment to the work.
And this tradition has also become a showcase for high-profile guest singers taking the role of Sally, like Billie Eilish in 2021.
And Phoebe Bridgers in 2022.
This use of current high-profile musicians further validates the film's enduring artistic relevance, crossing genres and generations.
The trend continues. Keith David is set to play Oogie Boogie and Janelle Monáe as Sally in the 2025 Hollywood Bowl return. This constant re-experiencing in live concerts, 3D re-releases, and theme park attractions has just solidified the film's position.
It has long exceeded its original categorization as merely a dark cartoon, and is now recognized as a genuine, renewed classic.
So if we look back at this whole journey, what does it truly signify? We've tracked a project that Disney initially found too weird and too dark to even fit within their brand.
But through the unique artistic marriage of Tim Burton's singular character design and Henry Selick's painstaking technical stop-motion direction,
Combined with Danny Elfman's unforgettable structural music, it managed to forge a profound and lasting legacy.
and that legacy is constantly renewed through re-releases, new literary media, and those communal live experiences. It proves the power of a distinct, uncompromising visual story.
And the success proves that Disney's initial rejection of the dark tone was actually a fundamental misunderstanding of what a portion of their audience craved. Something beautifully strange and haunting.
The film is a masterclass in creative pairing. It takes the unsettling aesthetic of German expressionism and balances it with the whimsical structural clarity of a Dr. Seuss narrative. It finds success exactly in that tension between darkness and whimsy.
So now that we understand the depth of its cultural effect and the rich world that was built, what other seemingly unexpected creative pairings in art or film combining two dramatically different, even conflicting styles might create a legacy just as enduring?
Something for you to ponder until our next conversation. Thanks for listening.